What if the most powerful healing of your life never happened in a conversation, never happened in a therapy room, never happened when anyone was watching, but happened in the quiet moments when it was just you and the truth you had been running from? Let me tell you something that most people get completely wrong about healing. We live in a world that has made healing into a performance. We share our trauma on social media and call it bravery. We talk about our wounds in group settings and call it processing. We read self-help books and highlight sentences and call it growth. We go to therapy once and expect to feel fixed. We listen to motivational content and feel inspired for 48 hours and call it transformation. And then we wonder why, despite all of that, we still feel the same underneath. Why the same patterns keep showing up. Why the same wounds keep getting triggered. Why we keep choosing the same kind of people and ending up in the same kind of pain. Why we can talk about our trauma fluently and still be completely controlled by it. Here is the truth that changes everything. Real healing does not happen in public. Real healing does not happen when you are performing bravery for an audience. Real healing does not happen in the highlight reel version of your journey that you share online. Real healing happens in the silence. It happens in the dark. It happens in the private, unglamorous, unwitnessed moments when you finally stop running and turn around to face what has been chasing you. And today, I want to talk about what that actually looks like.
Why you are terrified of silence. Before we can talk about healing in silence, we need to talk about why silence terrifies most people. Think about the last time you were truly alone with no stimulation. No phone, no music, no podcast, no television, no food, no conversation. Just you sitting with yourself in complete quiet. How long did it last before you reached for something? For most people, the answer is minutes, sometimes seconds. Because the moment the external noise stops, something internal gets very loud. And that something is everything you have been avoiding. The thoughts you do not want to think, the feelings you have been numbing, the questions you are afraid to ask yourself because you are even more afraid of the answers. The grief you packed away because there was never a right time to feel it. The anger you swallowed because expressing it felt dangerous. The loneliness you masked with busyness because admitting it felt like weakness. All of that lives in the silence, and so most people never go there. Instead, we fill every available moment with noise. We scroll through other people's lives to avoid sitting with our own. We stay in conversations that drain us because the alternative is being alone with our thoughts. We keep ourselves exhausted on purpose because tired people do not have the energy to feel deeply. We create elaborate systems of distraction and call them productivity, socialization, self-care. But silence is not your enemy. Silence is the address where your real self lives. And you have been avoiding that address for so long that even the idea of visiting feels threatening. Here is what I want you to understand. The discomfort you feel in silence is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that there is something inside you that has been waiting to be heard. Something that has been patient and persistent and quietly present through every distraction you have thrown at it. Something that will not leave until you finally turn toward it and listen. That is not danger. That is the beginning of healing.
Distraction is not coping, it is postponing. We need to have an honest conversation about distraction, because most of us have confused it with coping. Coping means you are processing something. Coping means you are moving through a difficult experience toward integration and understanding. Coping is active, even when it looks passive. Distraction is none of those things. Distraction is a pause button. It does not process anything. It does not heal anything. It simply delays the moment when you will have to feel what you have been refusing to feel. And every time you delay that moment, the feeling does not shrink. It grows. It compounds. It goes underground and starts shaping your behavior from a place you cannot see. When someone leaves you and you immediately download a dating app, that is distraction. When a memory surfaces that brings up old pain and you immediately reach for your phone, that is distraction. When you feel a wave of grief and you eat something, buy something, watch something, text someone, anyone, just to make the wave stop, that is distraction. And I am not judging you for it. I have done every single one of those things. We all have. Because feeling pain is genuinely difficult, and the human instinct is to move away from pain, not toward it. But here is the problem with distraction as a long-term strategy. The wound does not close, it just gets covered. And a covered wound in a dark, airless space does not heal. It festers, it infects. It starts affecting everything around it, even though you cannot directly see it. This is why you can be years removed from something and still feel its weight. This is why a song, a smell, a passing comment from a stranger can reach inside you and pull out a grief that should have dissolved long ago. This is why patterns repeat. This is why you keep ending up in the same emotional places, despite starting from different external circumstances. The wound is still there, under all that distraction, under all those years of keeping busy, waiting.
Learning to sit with yourself. The first real act of healing is learning to sit with yourself. Truly sit. Not sitting while scrolling, not sitting while listening to something, not sitting while planning your next move or replaying conversations in your head. Just sitting, present, quiet, with yourself. The first few times you try this, it will be deeply uncomfortable. Your mind will generate noise to fill the space. Anxious thoughts, critical thoughts, random memories, an overwhelming urge to do literally anything else. Your body might feel restless. You might feel a vague, formless dread that you cannot name. Let all of it happen. Do not try to think your way out of it. Do not try to solve it. Do not try to understand it in real time. Just stay. Breathe. Observe what is moving through you without grabbing onto it or pushing it away. This is a practice called presence, and it is one of the most radical things you can do in a world designed to keep you perpetually distracted. Because when you sit in presence, something begins to happen. Slowly, underneath the mental noise, something quieter starts to become audible. A feeling you did not know you were carrying. A knowing you had been suppressing. A grief that finally has enough space to breathe. A truth about yourself or your life that you had been too afraid to look at directly. This is what healing feels like in its early stages. Not relief, not peace, not sudden clarity. It feels like finally allowing yourself to be in the same room as your own experience. And that, as unglamorous as it sounds, is where everything begins. Start with 10 minutes. Sit somewhere comfortable. Close your eyes. And simply be with whatever is there. No agenda, no performance, no requirement to feel a certain way or arrive at a certain conclusion. Just presence. Just you, just now. Do this every day and watch what begins to shift.
Crying is not weakness, it is release. Somewhere along the way, most of us absorbed a message that crying was something to be ashamed of, that it was weakness, that strong people do not fall apart, that you should be able to handle things, move on, not let it affect you so much. This message is one of the most damaging lies we have inherited. Crying is not weakness. Crying is the body's built-in mechanism for emotional release. When you cry, truly cry, not the polite tears you allow in front of others, but the raw, ugly, uncontrolled crying that you only permit yourself in complete privacy, your nervous system is doing something essential. It is releasing. It is processing. It is moving emotion through your body and out of it, rather than keeping it trapped. The relief you feel after a genuine cry is not weakness leaving your body. It is pressure leaving your body. It is the physical evidence that something that needed to move finally moved. And yet so many of us have become experts at suppressing that release. We feel the wave coming and we clench against it. We breathe differently to stop it. We think about something else. We tell ourselves, not now, not here, not about this. And so the wave recedes, but it does not disappear. It goes back down. It joins the accumulation. If you have not cried in a long time, I want you to consider that this is not because there is nothing to cry about. It is because you have become so skilled at suppression that the mechanism barely activates anymore. And that suppression is costing you. Find your private space and let it come. Let it be as loud and ugly and inconvenient as it needs to be. Let the grief out. Let the frustration out. Let the longing out. Let whatever has been living compressed inside you have enough space to actually breathe. You will feel different on the other side. Not fixed, not suddenly okay, but lighter, more spacious, like something that was blocking a channel has finally been cleared.
The two kinds of forgiveness that will free you. Silent healing requires forgiveness, not the performance of forgiveness, not the announcement of forgiveness, not the forgiveness you tell people about so they will think you are the bigger person. The quiet, private, internal forgiveness that you do for yourself alone. There are two kinds, and you need both. The first is forgiving the people who hurt you. And before you resist this, let me tell you what forgiveness is not. It is not saying that what happened was acceptable. It is not minimizing your pain. It is not reconciling with someone who hurt you or pretending the wound did not exist. It is not something you do for them. Forgiveness is something you do for you. When you hold on to resentment, when you replay the betrayal, when you keep the anger burning as a way of protecting yourself from being hurt again, you are not punishing the person who wronged you. You are punishing yourself. You are keeping yourself emotionally tethered to a person and a moment that you deserve to be free from. Forgiveness is the act of cutting that tether. It is saying, what happened was real, the pain was real, and I am choosing to no longer let it occupy the center of my life. I am choosing to take back the energy I have been spending on this wound and redirect it toward building something worth building. You do not have to say this to anyone. You do not have to perform this publicly. Sit in your private silence and feel the weight of what you have been carrying in this resentment. Then consciously, deliberately, choose to set it down. Not because they deserve your forgiveness, because you deserve your freedom. The second kind of forgiveness is harder. It is forgiving yourself. For the years you stayed somewhere you should have left. For the times you knew something was wrong and ignored it because leaving felt scarier than staying. For the ways you hurt people when you were hurting and did not know how to do better. For the opportunities you let fear talk you out of. For the things you told yourself in your worst moments. That you were not enough, not lovable, not worthy of the things you most wanted. You have been carrying a verdict against yourself for a long time, and most of the time you are not even consciously aware of it. It lives in the way you talk to yourself when you make a mistake, in the way you hold yourself back from things you want, in the way you accept less than you deserve because some part of you believes that is what you have earned. Sit in silence and find that verdict. Feel the weight of it. And then, with the same compassion you would offer to someone you love, say to yourself, I did what I knew how to do with what I had at the time. I was doing my best, even when my best was not very good, and I forgive myself, fully, without condition. This moment, this private, witnessed by no one moment of self-forgiveness is one of the most powerful things a human being can experience, and it can only happen in silence.
Getting to know yourself again is one of the things that long-term pain does is disconnect you from yourself. When you have spent years performing, people-pleasing, shrinking, and surviving, you lose track of who you actually are underneath all of that. What you genuinely want, what actually brings you joy rather than just relief, what your values are when nobody is evaluating them. Healing in silence is also the process of rediscovery. In your quiet moments, start asking yourself questions that you have probably never allowed yourself to sit with honestly. Not the questions with socially acceptable answers, the real ones. What do I actually want my life to look like? Not what I have been told it should look like, not what would impress the people in my life. What do I genuinely want? What drains me? What fills me? Where have I been giving energy that I resent giving, and why have I kept giving it?
Who am I when nobody needs anything from me? When I have no role to play, no one to manage, no impression to make, who shows up? What have I been afraid to want because wanting it felt dangerous or foolish or too much? These questions do not need to be answered immediately. Sit with them. Let them work on you over days and weeks. Because the answers that come from genuine reflection in silence are more honest and more useful than anything you could arrive at by thinking hard for 5 minutes. When you start to know yourself this way, not the curated version, not the performing version, but the real, complicated, surprising version, everything changes. You stop needing external validation to feel grounded because you have your own ground to stand on. You stop choosing people and situations that are wrong for you because you actually know what right feels like. You stop contorting yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you because you know your own shape.
Healing is not a straight line. This is something nobody tells you, and it matters enormously. Healing is not linear. It does not go from broken to fixed in a clean upward arc. Healing looks like feeling genuinely better for 2 weeks, and then being blindsided by an old grief on a random Tuesday afternoon. It looks like thinking you have processed something completely, and then a song comes on, and you are right back in it. It looks like making real progress, and then a stressful season arrives and old coping mechanisms resurface. It looks like 1 step forward and what feels like 3 steps back, even though you are, overall, moving in the right direction. When this happens, and it will happen, the worst thing you can do is decide it means the healing is not working. The worst thing you can do is use a bad day as evidence that you are fundamentally broken, or that you will never get better, or that the work you have been doing meant nothing. A bad day in the middle of healing is not a relapse, it is information. It is your inner world showing you something that still needs attention. It is an invitation to go back into the silence and ask what is coming up and why. Be patient with yourself in a way that you have probably never allowed yourself to be patient. Healing has its own timeline, and that timeline is not negotiable. You cannot rush it by working harder. You cannot accelerate it by being more disciplined. You can only create the conditions for it, the silence, the presence, the honesty, the self-compassion, and then allow it to move at the pace it needs to move.
What healed feels like. I want to paint a picture for you of what you are working toward. Not so that you can measure yourself against it and feel like you are falling short, but so that you know what is possible, so that you know what you are building toward in all these quiet moments. Healed does not mean untouched. Healed does not mean you never feel pain or sadness or longing. Healed does not mean the past has been erased, or that you have become someone who floats through life unaffected by anything. Healed means that when something hurts, you can feel it without being destroyed by it. You can sit with difficult emotions without needing to immediately escape them. You can experience loss without it confirming your deepest fears about your own worthlessness. Healed means that you can be alone and feel like you are in good company, that the silence no longer frightens you, but has become a familiar and even welcome space. That you have developed a relationship with yourself that is honest and kind and stable enough to weather difficult things. Healed means that you no longer need people to choose you in order to feel chosen. You no longer need someone else's validation to feel valuable. You carry a quiet certainty about your own worth that doesn't depend on anyone else's behavior confirming it. Healed means that when someone walks away from you, you can feel the sadness of that without deciding it as proof that you are unlovable. You can say, "This hurt, and it makes sense that it hurt, and I am going to be okay." Healed means that you are no longer available for the things that used to diminish you. Not because you have built higher walls, but because you have developed enough self-knowledge and self-respect to recognize when something is wrong for you, and enough self-worth to act on that recognition. This version of you exists. It is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for people who had easier starts or fewer wounds or more resources. It is available to you, but it cannot be performed into existence. It cannot be rushed into existence. It can only be grown, slowly, quietly, in the unseen, unglamorous private work of sitting with yourself and being honest about what you find there.
Tonight, not next week, not when things calm down, not when you feel ready, because you will never feel ready. Tonight, before you sleep, create 15 minutes of genuine silence. Put the phone in another room. Turn off everything. Sit somewhere comfortable and just be there. Let whatever comes up, come up. Do not try to fix it or analyze it or make it mean something. Just be present with it. Ask yourself one question and sit with it honestly. How am I actually feeling right now? Not how should I feel, not how I want to feel, not how I will tell people I feel. How am I actually feeling? And then listen, really listen, with the same quality of attention you would give to someone you love deeply. This is where your healing begins. Not in the dramatic breakthrough, not in the perfectly articulated realization, not in any moment that would make a good story to tell later. In 15 minutes of quiet, in one honest question, in the willingness to finally hear the answer. The wounds you carry did not form overnight. They will not disappear overnight, but they will heal. One quiet moment at a time, one honest breath at a time, one small act of turning toward yourself instead of away. You have been running for a long time. You are allowed to stop now. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to be still. The silence is not empty. It is full of everything you need. Come home to it.